girl, Meghan Markle. Just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light-skin lottery? Acting all dumb like she don't know nothing.
If history is any guide from interviews to his own memoir, this is the exact kind of hit that makes him switch into full protective mode. Picture the jaw clenched, the PR radar screaming, the instinct to shield Meghan flaring up instantly. Publicly, he knows better than to add oxygen to a bonfire. Privately, you can almost hear the frustration. The same old cycle he says he left the firm to escape, now amplified by a comic with a global stage. And that sting isn't just about a punchline, it's about power. The moment a joke lands and the room agrees, it stops feeling like an opinion and starts sounding like common sense. And that's the part he can't control. So short hook over, here's what happened. A packed theater, lights down, and Chris Rock steps into the spotlight. No warm-up, no sidestep, no with all due respect. He goes straight for Meghan.
You didn't Google these motherfuckers? No, I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family!
The message is simple and brutal. You didn't accidentally wander into royalty. You chased it, you knew what it was, and the I had no idea storyline doesn't pass the laugh test. The room erupts, and those beats of silence after each punchline, that's where the damage multiplies. Jokes are one thing, recognition is another. The audience didn't just laugh, it nodded. That's the moment the narrative cracks. For years, Meghan's image had leaned on a single fragile pillar. Surprise. Surprised by protocols, surprised by scrutiny, surprised by the weight of the crown's shadow. Rock yanked that pillar out in under a minute and dared the crowd to say it out loud. And they did. Within hours, the clips started multiplying like they always do now. Cut-downs, reaction videos, subtitles slapped on for maximum shareability, TikTok loops, Twitter stitches, YouTube essays. The rhythm is predictable and unstoppable. A punchline becomes a headline becomes a verdict. And this is where Harry's frustration sharpens. He's lived this, he's talked about it, how public opinion can swing on a half-true headline, and how laughter can be a cudgel disguised as a bit. He's also a father and a husband who has made protect Meghan a personal mission. So tempers, expect them. Restraint, also expect it. This is not the moment to go scorched earth on a comedian and confirm the caricature, but it is the moment where behind closed doors he feels the familiar burn. Not the pain of a single joke, but the realization that the joke travels faster than any response he could craft. From there, the chain reaction gets ruthless. Late-night talkers smell the blood in the water. That "we want privacy" line, already a meme, gets blown into a running gag that reappears night after night, so often it stops needing context. The brand deals and curated photo ops become soft targets. Hosts take the contradictions and serve them like snacks, one tray at a time. Privacy with magazine spreads, authenticity with perfect lighting, just like us with private jets in the background. Nobody has to explain. Repetition does the heavy lifting. In comedy, repetition isn't laziness, it's a weapon. Say it enough times from enough stages and it starts to calcify into truth. Then animation finishes the job. The day a cartoon locks you into a caricature is the day you lose control over your face. South Park's worldwide privacy tour gag didn't need a dissertation. Placards, megaphones, private planes, and the joke wrote itself. Once you're a cartoon, the public doesn't see you, they see your outline. Every future interview, every glossy launch, every speech about purpose gets filtered through that outline. That's not fair. It is effective, and effective beats fair every single time. Meanwhile, social media does what it does best. It weaponizes tiny moments. A line from a docuseries, moving snacks from one bag to another, gets isolated, looped, and ridiculed until it becomes shorthand for try-hard curation. TikTok creators splice interviews with eye-roll reaction shots and sitcom laugh tracks. Threads showcase contradictions side by side. Privacy next to stage paparazzi angles, authenticity next to branded aesthetics. The captions write themselves. You don't need a 2,000-word critique when 5 seconds of video says, "We're not buying it." In the UK, club comics use a different blade: dry, cold, merciless. They call out the melodrama, the production values, the idea that bowing or curtsying is somehow a world-ending trauma. In the US, the tone shifts to bemused disbelief. The pre-wedding "we already got married" claim turns into a week of one-liners about vows, venues, and timelines. Harry's memoir feeds a separate cottage industry. Overshares flipped into punchlines about gilded hardship. It's not subtle, and it's not meant to be. Subtlety doesn't trend. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This doesn't only dent Meghan, it boomerangs onto Harry. The sympathetic soldier turned husband on a mission now gets cast as the co-star of a glossy grievance saga. The more the public spots the structure, big reveal, solemn music, pivot to healing, the easier it is to predict the next beat. Once the audience can predict you, it can parody you. And parody always wins in a world where most people only give you 8 seconds before they swipe. Back to Harry's reaction. The smart move is the quiet move. He's learned that public spats with media figures feed the loop. You reply, they clip your reply. The clip becomes a bigger clip, the bigger clip becomes the story. So he swallows it, chooses silence, and tries to outlast the cycle. But silence cuts both ways. In the attention economy, silence reads like surrender. Audiences don't mark your restraint. They fill it with their own narration. That's the trap. Respond, and you're thin-skinned. Don't respond, and you're guilty by meme. What made Rock's bit especially potent wasn't just the content, it was the framing. He flipped the script from naive outsider crushed by ancient rules to savvy climber shocked that the mountain is steep. It's a more modern kind of critique. Not moral outrage, not politics, just a jab about common sense. You didn't Google the royal family. You didn't anticipate the tabloids. You didn't suspect the crown has rules. It's a sledgehammer wrapped in a shrug. People don't debate a shrug. They nod and move on. Once the shrug spreads, late-night lines connect to cartoon scenes, which connect to reaction thumbnails, which connect to tweets about performative suffering. The pattern becomes the point. Now, every earnest line gets matched with a smirk emoji. Every sermon about privacy gets a chorus of, "But the Netflix deal, though." Every swipe at the press gets a reply with 12 laughing faces and a South Park clip. You can't fact-check a vibe, and a vibe is what they're fighting now. There's also the wider context, the brand struggles, the rumor fog, the headlines about partnerships that didn't land the way they were supposed to. When the public senses that momentum has stalled, it retrofits the past to explain the present. Suddenly, what once looked like a bold rebrand reads like an overreach. What once sounded like advocacy feels like opportunism. That's not necessarily fair either. It's just how audiences protect their attention. They pick the story that costs them the least energy to maintain. Creators pile on. YouTube is full of frame-by-frame breakdowns. Watch the eyes here, listen to the pause there, see how the answer pivots into the talking point. Whether the analysis is correct almost doesn't matter. What matters is that it scratches an itch, the urge to feel like you're seeing behind the curtain. And once viewers feel they've seen behind the curtain, they stop believing the curtain. It's the oldest magic trick in the world. Reveal the wires and the dove stops feeling like wonder. And yet the couple's defenders will say, and not without reason, that comedians punch at everything. That contradiction is the currency of modern celebrity, and that if you're famous enough to be roasted, you're famous enough to be fine. Fair. But even defenders admit the slope is slippery. When satire gels, it hardens. The more the jokes repeat, the more they sound like documentation, not imagination. At a certain point, you're not arguing with jokes, you're arguing with muscle memory. Now, the part that keeps Harry awake, legacy. He walked away from a machine in the name of dignity and safety. He told the world exactly why. He framed it in terms of survival. And now the story most people are hearing isn't survival, it's side-eye. That hurts because legacy is the royal language. Those palaces run on lineage, continuity, and the slow, silent grind of time. Comedy is the opposite. Quick, loud, disposable, but string together enough disposable moments and they become the permanent record. Here's what adds pressure. Every attempt to reset the narrative, new partnerships, new podcasts, new interviews, has to fight uphill against the echo. If a project is glossy, it reads as curated. If it's raw, it reads as calculated rawness. If it's quiet, it reads as hiding. If it's loud, it reads as attention-seeking. That's not unique to them. It's the modern bind of anyone living at celebrity altitude. But the royal backdrop amplifies it. The crown is the world's most stubborn symbol. Trying to out-message a symbol is like trying to out-sprint a mountain. So where does that leave Meghan? In a space where sincerity costs double, where every phrase about purpose gets measured against a punchline from 6 months ago, where every photo carries the ghost of that cartoon silhouette, and where the public won't throw out a good meme just because you asked nicely. She can still move an audience, she can still gather a crowd, she can still command attention, but attention has different flavors, and the comedy flavor is sticky. As for Harry, the calculation tightens. Go to war with a comic and you look petty. Go to war with a cartoon and you look ridiculous. Go to war with silence and you lose, because silence is undefeated. The only path that pays is living well, and not in the hashtag sense. Show up where the jokes can't breathe. Quiet wins, patient wins, unglamorous wins. The kind that don't need a camera to count. But those wins are slow, and the internet is fast. That's the tension he's living in. The culture keeps circling back to a single idea, contradiction. Say you want peace, then sign up for Spotlight. Ask for privacy, then do a 6-part series. Denounce the castle, then trade on the crest. Some of those reads are cheap. Some are fair. All of them are sticky. And when a read is sticky, comics can flick it like a card trick and land a laugh in 2 words. You can't out-argue that with a statement. You can only outlast it with time and proof. But the part people miss is this. Jokes don't just land because they're mean. They land because they feel obvious. That's the superpower of Rock's set. He didn't instruct the audience. He confirmed what they already half believed and gave them permission to say it out loud. Confirmation laughter is seismic. It doesn't convert. It cements. After that, all the king's horses and all the king's PR can't unlaugh the room. So yes, Harry was angry. Angry in the way anyone would be when a person you love becomes the internet's favorite chew toy. Angry in the way a father hates the idea that his kids will grow up seeing their parents as caricatures first and people second. But also disciplined. He's watched enough public car wrecks to know that chasing a comedian for a retraction is how you become the next punchline. The harsh truth? In a fight between fury and funny wins on replay, and that's the bigger picture. One comedian didn't destroy a brand. One comedian revealed a seam, and the culture ripped it wider. Late night codified it, animation immortalized it, social media industrialized it, and now the crowd carries it forward for free. You can't sue a crowd. You can't cancel a vibe. The only way through is relentlessly boring consistency, good work that speaks for itself, for a long time when nobody's paying attention. That's not glamorous. It is undefeated. Will that happen? Maybe. They have resources, reach, and the stubbornness to try. But the mood has shifted. The room that once tilted towards sympathy now leans towards skepticism. When a narrative flips, it rarely flips back. And for a couple who traded the palace for the promise of writing their own story, that's the irony that stings the most. The loudest chapters are now written by people holding microphones on a stage. So here's where we leave it. A short hook, a long shadow, and a reality that no one in that theater could deny. A single set didn't end anything. It clarified everything. The audience didn't just laugh at a duchess, it laughed at a story that no longer convinced them. And from now on, every time the spotlight hits, the first sound they'll have to push through isn't applause, it's the echo of a joke that told the world, "Come on, you knew." But here's the kicker. Audiences change before celebrities do. The room that once felt sympathetic now wants receipts. You can say you've turned the page, but the crowd will ask, "Show me." That's the trap of momentum. When the vibe flips, everything that used to work starts to look like spin. And once people think they've seen the pattern, they'll find it everywhere, even in moments where it isn't there. That's why Harry's anger, however human, can't be the point. Proof has to be. Picture the morning after the special. The headlines are clipped into threads, the advisors are pinging, the silence strategy is on the table. The temptation is to call out cruelty, to frame it as punching down, to beg for fairness. But fairness doesn't trend. What trends is outcomes. The only response that beats a meme is the kind of win that makes people go quiet, a win that doesn't need a press release because it's obvious on sight. So what does the war room actually game out? Sue the comic? It backfires and doubles the audience for the joke? Clap back? That turns one monologue into a saga and writes another week of punchlines. Try a heart-to-heart interview? The internet will call it episode 7 and comb every blink for tells. Launch something splashy? People will ask who it helps, fans or the brand. None of those routes solve the laughter problem. They just reframe it for another spin around the timeline. Across the river, the old palace playbook sits like a stone tablet. Never complain, never explain. That code is ruthless, boring, and weirdly bulletproof. Silence from a throne reads as power. Silence from Hollywood reads as plotting. Harry lives between those worlds, which means every move will disappoint someone. If he leans royal, he's cold. If he leans modern, he's thirsty. The internet loves that double bind because it guarantees a story either way. There is a narrow road, it's not glamorous, it's work that isn't staged to be seen, but is too useful to be ignored. Third-party voices, not surrogates. Results, not reels. Think tangible wins that aren't about them. A project that survives without their face. A cause that scales without their quotes. A community that says this helped before a reporter asks. The public trusts what it witnesses. If you give them something they can point to, they'll do your PR for free. But beware the overcorrection. We're Just Like You is a tough sell when the feed still shows motorcades and marble. If they push relatability too hard, the audience hears parody. If they push impact too loud, the audience hears marketing. The fix is distance. Less self-documenting, more letting others document. If that sounds slow, it is. But slow is how you beat fast. Slow is how you outlast a joke. Zoom out to the family piece, because that's the engine under Harry's anger. He knows what it's like to grow up inside headlines he didn't write. He knows how mockery echoes in halls that should be quiet. Every time a clip trends, he's doing the math forward to middle school, high school, university. What those kids will hear before they know the whole story. That's not PR. That's a father clocking the bill for today's noise, years in advance. Meanwhile, the rock clip will age like a GIF, always ready to drop in the comments the next time Meghan speaks. That's how the modern archive works. It isn't a library, it's a toolbox. People keep the tools that are fun to use, and You Should Have Known is a wrench that fits almost any bolt, so every new initiative will have to clear that wrench, not by arguing with it, but by making it feel small next to something undeniably useful. Could Meghan laugh it off? Maybe, but there's a risk in trying to out-joke a pro. If you quip and it lands, the room says finally. If you quip and it misses, the room says try hard. Humor works best when it's unforced and rare. One dry line at the perfect moment can reset a mood. A string of jokes reads like deflection. If she ever goes that route, less is more. Earn the timing with quiet stretches first. There's also power in deliberate absence. Not the sulky kind, the productive kind. Choose rooms that don't clap for fame. Choose work that doesn't need a microphone. If they become fixtures in places where cameras are awkward, not expected, people will notice. And the noticing will come with a grudging respect. Okay, they're actually doing it. Respect is sticky in a way, outrage isn't. Outrage burns hot and fast. Respect lingers. Harry's anger right now is a compass, useful for direction, useless for speed. It points to what matters: dignity, safety, future-proofing the family name. But you don't steer a ship on anger alone. You steer it with a map and a clock. Map, where are the rooms that convert effort into outcomes without applause? Clock, how long can we go without needing to explain ourselves? If they can answer those two questions cleanly, the rest becomes logistics. And what about the audience? They are not a monolith. They are restless and sentimental and forgetful in strange ways. They can be harsh for months and then turn on a dime when a human moment lands. But it has to land without the taste of staging. The more something looks like content, the faster the mind files it under promo. The more it feels like a life that happens even when nobody's watching, the more the mind holds on. That's the paradox for this couple. Their rise was built on the power of telling a story. Their next chapter will be built on the discipline of not telling one. Not until there's something finished to show. Not until the work can carry the weight without a caption. It's a tough pivot to make when your entire moat has been attention. But attention isn't a moat. It's a drawbridge. Great for arrivals, terrible for sieges. So let's bring it back to the stage where this all started. A comic threw a match. The room laughed, the camera caught the nods, and the internet did the rest. Harry's first feeling was fury. Of course it was. But fury won't move a needle that comedy welded into place. Only time-proof and a little strategic boredom will. If they can live with the boredom, the laughter will get quieter. If they can't, the laughter will get louder. In the end, the choice is simple, not easy. Be the story or outgrow it. Chase the clip or build the thing that makes clips irrelevant. If Chris Rock's set stripped away the last cover, fine. There's freedom in having nothing left to defend. Go make something that doesn't need defense. Let the room discover it on its own. Because when the audience decides to clap on their terms, not yours, that sound drowns out every old punchline, even the one that felt permanent. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only win that matters.